It's that time of the year. Your vacation is coming up. You can already hear the beach waves, feel the warm breeze, relax, and think about work. You really, really want it all to work out while you're away. Monday.com gives you and the team that peace of mind. When all work is on one platform and everyone's in sync, things just flow. Wherever you are, tap the banner to go to Monday.com.
Welcome to the RuPaul's Drag Race Recap Show for All Stars 9, Episode 11, titled Grand Finale Variety Extravaganza Part 1. My name is Joe Batanz, and I am joined, as always, by one grand co-host from the podcast pod, is my co-pilot. Please say...
All of Vietnam is proud of you.
To Mr. Taylor, the latte boy. Hello, Taylor.
I'm so proud. I'm so proud of my Vietnamese
I gotta
heritage.
tell you something. I have never worked harder on a Clip Zero because the reality is she says it really low. She goes, Vietnam. I had to pull the clip and then adjust the audio so you could actually hear over the music what she was saying because it's so low.
Yeah. That was a good one. I was not expecting that one.
Vietnam is proud of you. By the way, Taylor and I had another. I think when we have nothing to talk about on the show, we make up for it by having a really long Just Between Us Girls. So you really get your money's worth last week and this week and Just Between Us Girls. An extra long Just Between Us Girls. Granted, a lot of it is just talking about our health. But still, it's good. I can tell you.
Yeah.
Good Just Between Us Girls. So go over to, there's two ways to get it. Patreon.com/AfterThoughtMedia at the executive tier level and above. Remember, for executive and exclusive tier, you can do a 7-day free trial if you want to check that out. And then two, if you're on Apple Podcasts, just scroll right up where the little album cover is and you could subscribe right there. Coming soon on the Apple Podcast version of subscription, they're going to get the bonus episodes because on the T, which we're going to talk about in a second, they don't get the bonus episodes. If you're a Patreon supporter, you have access to all the bonus episodes in a separate folder. You can go listen to like 17 or 18 bonus episodes. But if you're any Patreon supporter, has access to those. But the people on Apple Podcasts, when J-Bug ends, I'm gonna start dropping those episodes. Now, if you're an executive tier at Patreon, they're gonna start getting Taylor. Let's talk about it. Our sex show. Not a sex show. Lori's dad
please
found.
Please reword that.
Yeah, Lori's dad found boxes and boxes of a weird sex ed book called Let's Talk About It. So what we did was we sold them to the Afterthoughts, and now we have a. You don't need to have the book, by the way, to listen to the show. No, not at all. But with every chapter, it discusses a sex ed thing, and we recap the chapter. It's me, Lori Roggenkamp, and Adam Salandra doing that over. And executive tier will start getting that show as well. And speaking of the T, I don't know, Taylor might not know this either. We just started our bonus season of the T, and the bonus season is not on Patreon. It's only on the public feed of the T. And go over, so just search. I think, let's try this one with Taylor. I have to do someone who's not connected to Afterthought. You get like my parents' phone or something. But I believe when we first started the T, when you did a search on the T, it was a very popular name for a podcast. And we were like number 100. I think when I did a search last time, we were the first ones, but I don't know if that's because I already subscribe. And we did it on Robert's phone. He didn't subscribe, but he goes, well, maybe it's because I subscribed to Drag Race Recap. But if you put in the T on Apple Podcasts, it's the top result. I don't know if that's true for you, Taylor.
It was when I Yeah.
Okay, so and we put it in Spotify too. But if you,
Or no,
so you
with
go to
Pocket Cast. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
With Pocket Cast, it was the first thing that came up.
Yeah, so I will try it on my parents' phone, but if you put in the T on podcast on my phone at least, on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, it's the first result, the T. Guys, the show is so fucking good. We just released another episode. Lori in there talked about how she used to be a notary public. Her dad used to be a notary public. She got teeth gems in front of me. We went to dinner and she got in a fight with a homeless person. And I think the title says what happened in that episode.
It does. There was something about a car accident too.
Oh, yeah. She got a car accident. She chased the woman down and was honking her horn at her. So, like, Lori is an agent of chaos. And every episode, there's some story like that. So go over there, look up the T wherever you get your podcast. It should be the first result. All right. This week, the girls put some of the crew into the quick drag and then prepare for the variety show Extravaganza. In a final twist, the girls must vote for a queen to receive a double diamond, which will double the winning queen's total number of badges. Taylor the Latte Boy, who deserves to have their number of badges doubled, in your opinion? Who, maybe no, you don't deserve. Who do you think should have their badges doubled?
I didn't even think about that. Who do I think? Honestly, I think the person who got the most votes in that is not going to get it, which is Nina. They showed 2 people voting for Nina, which I think is to lead you to believe that Nina is going to be the one that's going to be brought up to that. But I also don't think, I think that they're doing a bait and switch.
As far as 2 people vote for Roxy as well?
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah,
but
Plastique and Nina.
But who voted for Plastique? Did 2 people vote for each? They showed 2 people voting for each of them?
They showed Plastique vote for Roxy, and they showed Nina vote for Roxy.
Okay.
Who voted for Nina?
Roxy voted for Nina.
Okay,
and
yes.
I think, was it Chanel voted for Nina?
Okay.
So I know 2 people, because one person in the beginning and one person at the end. So I think it was Chanel. And I know Roxy did that because Roxy said eye for an eye. And because you gave me a pin before, this is the only way that I can say thank you, and did that. So as far as who I think should get it, I think, I don't know, like Nina is just so well known for her charity work that it makes sense from a overarching storyline of the season, but the drag races, not Nina's, but drag races. But I kind of feel like it's going to be Plastique because Plastique hasn't won any money. So they want to make sure that Plastique gets a chance to possibly win and then win the $200,000. Because a comment was made about that. They've talked about the fact that she's lip synced 4 times or whatever at this point and never won any money. And that's been like dripped through episodes before, like just a little kernel of something that doesn't go anywhere. I think I commented on that a couple of episodes ago that they talked about that. And then that was a kind of a drop storyline. This may be them picking that up to make it look like there's a chance that she'll win. Especially with the moment with RuPaul, with that you talked about of all of Vietnam is proud of, particularly proud of me, but also Plastique.
We'll definitely talk about that Tic Tac chit chat. There was I don't know if there's a lot to discuss, but it was very weird.
Oh no, there's not a lot to discuss this whole episode. That was I have really thoughts.
Guys, I am going to do now. I said this last week and we went like 50 minutes. I'm going to really try and get over the 30-minute mark. But I will say this. Once we get over the 30-minute mark, I'm going to wrap this motherfucker up. I don't want to do a whole 20 minutes on the ballad of Billy, or the Ode to Billy Joe or whatever that we did last week. Because I have to edit that shit. And I'm like, we're still talking about the night the lights went out in Georgia. We didn't even talk about that. You mentioned it. I don't even know why I said that. So who deserved to have their number of badges? Okay, deserve in terms of like, okay, they did well in the competition and they weren't recognized for it. I think the Plastique was she got the badges. I would have to say maybe Georges. Maybe Nina. One of the two in terms of deserving it. Okay, they're
that's the 2 that when I was answering I vacillated between. But then as you're saying that, somebody who did well, the way that you just said as far as the criteria, somebody who did well but didn't necessarily get the recognition, if that's the case, then my vote would be for Vanjie.
I could neither one of us said comic. I would say, okay, that's fair. But then if I'm saying strategically, if I was a contestant, I would give it to either Vanjie or Chanel. Because, I don't know, because Chanel's, okay, I have to stop judging this thing like I'm the judge, right? Because now that I think about it, if I'm a judge, Chanel's already winning before I even see anything because she's fucking juggling and not doing an original song. So she's already has major points over like a Vanjie, a Gottmik, or a somebody else, Plastique probably.
Yeah.
Just because she's not doing an original song. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe Chanel might have a chance at winning her way into the finale. I'm not sure. We'll see what happens. Yes, Taylor?
That is the one that I would like to say. We're just going to go through and list everybody but Gottmik, aren't we? As we talk about this. I think I would love to see Chanel in the finale. Chanel has been the underdog all season, and to see her make it that far would be great.
Yeah. Then I think strategically speaking, because there's a chance, in my book at least, Chanel does well in the talent show because she's juggling. I would give it then to Vanjie because I don't think an original number, like Plastique, we saw a preview of last week and it looks like she's doing something fierce. So there might be a chance she pulls off a win in the lip sync. I mean, in the variety show because it looked kind of fierce what she was doing. Vanjie just looks like she's dancing and doing Vance. Come on, I have to do a redo of Fancy, by the way, with Vanjie. Vanjie just looks like she's dancing and singing.
Yeah. Well, but that's what a lot of them do.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. She wouldn't have a chance at winning, so I'm going to double her badges. It's going to bring her to 4. She's still not going to. There's no way she would match anybody.
Yeah, I mean, there's a possibility that they're not going to do that. Anybody that's in the 2 club, they're not going to unless they win.
So you don't think they're going to follow the vote?
Who's going to follow the vote? You mean? Oh no, that was done for. Well, unless they show everybody's votes like they did in All Stars 3, where they show who voted for everybody. That nobody voted for Shangela except for Thorgy.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I don't know.
Find out. All right, why don't we do this? Why don't we take a break? And when we come back, we are going to talk about. Look, we've done a good job so far. We're going to talk. We have theoretically halfway through the episode, so we'll talk about the rest of the episode when we come right back.
Greetings, I'm Bernard.
And I'm Magenta. You might know us from such hit podcasts as Madame Magenta, Sonus Mystica.
Horror anthology Magenta Presents.
Or Season 3 of Mockery Manor.
We're everywhere.
And we're spreading faster than an STD in an old folks' home because now we have a brand new podcast. Wham!
Wham! It's a fun acronym that stands for We Have a Movie.
Oh, it's not just an acronym, Bernard.
It's not?
It's a chat podcast where we invent smash hit Hollywood movies based on popular toys.
If you like the Barbie movie and you want to see similar treatments of your favourite childhood toys, I'll wager you'll like Wham! With episodes on Polly Pocket, Rubik's Cube, Game Boy, Strawberry Shortcake,
Furby, Connect 4, and lots of other nostalgia bait. But it's not just for adults who still like toys. It's a podcast for anyone who loves Hollywood tropes and comedy.
and quantum mechanics.
And BDSM.
Wham has something for everyone, but is still specifically about movies.
That's Wham! W-H-A-M. You know, like when Batman punches someone.
Yes.
Adam West. That Batman.
Exactly.
Not the Christopher Nolan one.
No.
Download it anywhere you listen to podcasts. That's what the world needs, another movie podcast.
Was that clear? Maybe I shouldn't have mentioned quantum mechanics.
And we are back. The next day, the girls walk into the workroom and announce their love of drag. They're surprised to see a big, furry, pink box sitting on the table. They reach into the box and learn they must each draw a card and perform the act on the card in order to win money for their charity. Next, RuPaul entered the workroom to announce this week's mini challenge. The queens must perform quick drag transformations on members of the crew. As the girls apply the makeup on the crew, we learn more about who the crew is, who the members of the crew are, and what they do. After the newly transformed queens strut their stuff, we learn all of the queens are winners. Taylor, let's talk about the next day. Let's talk about that mini challenge. Any big thoughts on anything that happened with those little pink furry box or anything?
Oh, I've got big thoughts about this episode.
Go ahead. This part in particular?
Yes, sure. All of it. All of it.
Okay, go ahead.
This episode was such a waste of my time. I was angry when it was over. Yeah. This was the fact that they are making this out to be a 2-week finale when this could have been edited down to I would take a 90-minute one-shot finale with this. The fact that this is what the more I sat and watched it, the more I was so tuned out until the very end with the voting. Like then I suddenly perked up a little bit, but so much of this was just filler. It was bad. The furry box thing, to me, they all knew they were going to get money, so nobody tried. Nobody tried to do anything. With Angie doing do an interpretive dance, and then she just kind of did a death drop, and that earned her $1,500 for her charity. Shut the fuck up. Georges just walking over and going, "Oh," and then that's not, that is just, you could tell none of them wanted to do it. That they just knew that they had to do something so they get, and pretty much there should have been stakes. There should have been somebody judging that went, no, you have to do something else or you don't get the money.
Or the amount of money you get depends on how much you put in. Like,
yes.
I'm going to give that $100 or I'm going to give that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember they did something similar. I don't know. Was that last All-Stars where they all kind of read cards and had to do things? There was something kind of similar to this, but it seemed like they were all getting the money for themselves. Yeah. But it was where they were all kind of really into it and really and this just felt like they all just seem like they're done.
Yeah. They are probably they're very exhausted. Yeah.
They all just seem like at this point, like they just just pick somebody so we can all go home kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't make for good TV.
I have this as a random note. I can say it here because you just opened the door. 1, this is already a saying. 2, I've seen this saying before somewhere on Reddit in regards to a Drag Race episode, but I'm going to say it here. So it's not I'm not claiming it to be original thought, but I did write this episode could have been an email, which I think sort of. Yeah.
Yes. I would much rather that this was that there was different rules. At least there was different stakes. I think the quick drag thing with the crew, we've seen them do that before. Granted, it was a full episode. It wasn't quick drag, but that was there were 2 commercial breaks.
Yeah.
For the mini challenge.
Yeah.
Just make it a maxi challenge at this point. We're bringing back one of our most loved, makeover things, and we're bringing in the crew.
No, 100% this could have been an entire episode, because this usually on a mini challenge quick drag type of thing, it's they go away and then they just come back and they're done. And then also we didn't need to see them working with the choreographer. There's a lot of wasted time on this episode. Let's talk about that mini challenge. Georges had a guy named Justin that she was doing, and I love that Georges is so tiny that Justin sitting in the chair was still taller than her. I thought that was funny. Did you have any thoughts on the mini challenge, by the way? Any of the queens or the moments or anything?
I thought all the guys were hot.
Oh, you did?
Everybody. Oh, yeah. All of them were hot in very different ways, but they were all very attractive. And a lot of the women were just sort of with the exception of Nina's, they just kind of were I'm here, but I kind of don't want to. I'm sort of being made to do this sort of thing. That just a couple of them had real sour looks on their face, and I I don't know.
Willem dropped this rumor that some of the crew are suing or something because of mistreatment.
Yes.
This is what led to that.
Maybe. Yeah. So is the one that was the woman who was the head hairstylist on the show, is that the one who took over for Delta Work, I wonder?
No, the guy that did Delta was a man. I don't know who maybe she's a hairstylist for like Michelle and the other judges or guest stars or whatever. I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. But it just was not, I was not impressed with that as a mini challenge. And then you knew that everybody was going to win. But then if they're just like handing out money at this point, trying to like build everybody up, then say everybody, there's 8 contestants. Each of you get an additional $500 for your charity. And we're going to give all of the crew $500 to donate to the charity of their choice, like they did with the firefighters or something. Yeah. Because it was just like everybody wins, and then everybody went yay, and then that was then they did the weird not the weird, but the dance line, and then that was it.
Oh yeah. You're
stupid.
on fire today, Taylor. You're really upset.
I just finished watching this about an hour ago, and I was furious that my time was wasted.
That's what he tells me every time we record a show. I loved Roxy's person, Vanis Andrews. Oh my God, I thought that was so hilarious. And then also very interesting that Vanjie's queen, Atlantis, had the Mateo last name, a name that Vanjie doesn't even have anymore.
I did notice that she did that. That was interesting. I do like Tuda West. That did make me giggle a little bit, but because nobody else really came up with like crazy names like that.
No. All right. For this week's Maxi Challenge, the queens will perform in a variety show. But before they do, they will rehearse with some dancers and will sit down with RuPaul for a tic-tac chat. In the workroom, the queens discuss the competition and their odds of making it to the finale. They also share some of what they'll be doing in the talent show. For the tic-tac chit-chat, Chanel changed once she spoke to RuPaul in the workroom. Angeria hears from Ru that she has what it takes to be a star in Hollywood. Nina West views drag as life-saving. Vanjie shares her renewed confidence. Georges needs to make her character Jorge into a series of movies. That was odd. Gottmik thought she could fly under the radar after his transition. Roxy had a falling out with her grandma. And Plastique feels accepted because of Drag Race. More than half of the girls cried and told RuPaul that they love her. On a nondescript soundstage, the girls rehearsed their numbers with the dancers. And back in the workroom, Gottmik thinks she may have developed feelings for Vanjie. And Vanjie says she feels the same. We can talk about that too. I feel that was sort of like, oh yeah.
They're there.
Me too. They're there.
Yeah.
Me too. All right. Any big thoughts? That really is the bulk of the episode. Any big thoughts here on like anything that happened in the workroom, Taylor?
The only thing that really happened in the workroom was the Gottmik Vanjie stuff. And
okay.
I mean, what is the phrase that you say? The girl we done already knew.
Yeah,
isn't that the?
I literally have that right here on my notes. It says, "Gottmik's crush, girl, we been done you."
We been done new. Yeah, that was so like. Well, no shit. That's
yeah.
It's been clear since like the first episode that you've had the big pants for Vanjie, and she was trying to make it this very like, shut up. We know. Everybody knows.
And look, I can't read Vanjie's brain, but I got the impression she was being very diplomatic in the confessional and being like, yeah, she's really cool.
Yeah.
I need dick. Like that's not gonna. What a good friend she is.
She's like a sister.
Yeah, that's sort of the impression. Because even when Vanjie was like singing that song on the guitar, Vanjie had an uncomfortable smile on her face. Like when people sing "Happy Birthday" to you.
You know what? I was so checked out by that point, I don't even know what you're talking about. I know that there was something with the guitar, and that was when they did the, ooh, you got, she already had hers.
Yeah, during that moment, during that little package that they had put together, they show they intersperse it, but there's some clips of Gottmik playing her guitar and Vanjie's on the couch, and she's singing about how much she loves Vanjie to Vanjie and how amazing Vanjie is to Vanjie. And Vanjie's sitting there smiling. But again, like I said, that smile on your face when people are singing happy birthday to you and you don't know what to do. It
very
looked
cringe.
like that. Yeah, very, very cringe. The part that I wanted to talk about was there's a conversation, an innocuous conversation between Chanel and Plastique about the whole badge situation, blah, 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 and the double and the chance to win 3 badges in the from the variety show. And then Chanel tells Plastique, because you know what, girl, I want to be in that finale with you. And Plastique does the same thing. She's like, yeah, I want you there with me too. And you're like, probably she really does, because she's like, that will help guarantee that I win this whole thing.
Right.
But I thought that was very odd. It was like a very odd, cringe moment that Chanel thinks that Plastique sees her as a worthy competitor, which I don't think anyone in that room does. But I could be wrong, Taylor.
Yeah, I mean, which sucks because I like Chanel, but Chanel has definitely been the underdog of the season. So I think at this point, everybody was excited for her that she got her badge, that she earned her badge.
Yeah.
And then I think then when she won the lip sync, then it went from, oh my God, she got a badge to, oh shit, she's getting badges now.
Yeah.
So at this point, like, it's sort of like, I mean, Angie said it when they were voting, I'm not going to vote for her. She's winning on her own now.
Yeah.
So I think that may be sort of the general consensus in there with Chanel. Maybe I could be wrong, but that's kind of what I got from that too.
I don't know. But, I mean, that would be ridiculous. Let's talk about these Tic Tac lunches. One, I was a little surprised. No Michelle Visage. It was just RuPaul by herself.
I noticed that too. But you figure that's the day. I mean, then they have to pay Michelle for an extra day, because she would have come in the day before versus the day of a taping. Though I guess she does that for recordings and stuff too.
I just think they were like, we're just have Ru do it.
As far as the Tic Tac lunches go, I thought it definitely felt like everybody trying to figure out a way to cry. I'm sure there was some bruised forearms back at the hotel that night where people were pinching themselves trying to get themselves to cry.
Did you think any of the tears were genuine? Did you get a genuine, like those were genuine tears?
I think Roxy talking about her grandmother that they got into a big fight,
like
and
me?
then
When she first said I lost my grandma, I thought, oh, the grandma died.
Yes.
And then
so did I.
And then she goes, no, we got a big fight. And I'm like, ugh, this bitch can't keep a fucking, she must be a big pain in the ass.
Well, and that kind of went through my head too. Like, just like, how do you get in a fight with your grandmother where your grandmother, after like, because wasn't she on season All Stars 2? The makeover?
Yes, because they made over their parents.
Right. So
yeah, like what is that falling out about? Like what are you falling out about your grandma about?
Yeah. But I mean, we don't know the details. It might have been, who knows. But I also thought Plastique's, well, again, Vietnam is proud of you. I thought Plastique's, that seemed like a genuine, like she still has the feelings of, because she's the one that Rue said, I'm your mother now, I'm your mommy now, or whatever. So I think that still really genuinely affects her from that. So of everybody's, I think those were the two that may have been the most genuine. Possibly Georges too. I
think RuPaul is actually crying with Georges crying. I think RuPaul wants to fuck Georges. I don't know what that deal is. Do you think Jorge could have wasn't Jorge last like 10 seconds?
Well, that was the whole that was the whole character that they did, but it really was just sort of Georges talking, but dressed in like boy drag, like a drag king.
But she just went up there one time and went like, "Hey, what's up?" And then went like, "I'm just." Or does RuPaul talk about the gay Jorge or the straight Jorge?
Rue doesn't know. Rue read the cue card before she came out saying you should make a series of movies out of Jorge.
I think RuPaul has a twisted sense of what gets made into a movie. I was saying, like, what made her think that Jerry would be a movie star?
Yes. Are you represented? Do you have an agent? Good, because you're going to be big in the movies.
Yeah.
Okay. That's okay.
What movie?
I don't know. I thought that was very weird too. Also, through a lot of them, it was weird to me how, like, they would start crying and Rue would go stone face.
Yeah.
Like, that was very, I have years of therapy. So clearly I'm a therapist too. And when I would cry in session, my therapist would go stone face. So I'm going to go stone face. That's my thought. That was just my thought on that.
Is it an intentional thing to go? What is it? Is this hoping like you don't want to let them process? What is the logic behind going stone faced?
The logic behind going stone face is that you are, stone face is probably not the right word, but I mean, you just kind of don't show any affect because one, if you're showing affect, then they are the person is modifying their emotions around your reaction to it. So if you just kind of give that like unconditional support at that point and you're just allowing them to process, it allows it kind of doesn't impede the process, whereas if people are going like, don't cry sort of thing, or, this is good, you need to cry, you need to get it out, then it suddenly becomes about the relationship versus the person sitting with their feelings.
But what happens if you want to cry? Like, for instance, I always tell this story, which is kind of funny because the opposite was true here. But like when Christian told the story about his father dying, even sometimes when I tell the story, I start crying. And I remember when Christian was telling me the story, even though he was casually eating trail mix and not crying at all when he told me the story, I started tearing up and crying. What happens when you want to cry when they say something?
I try not to. I had like my therapist cried when I talked about us having to put down my dog a couple months ago. Like but I was also sobbing through that as I was talking about that, because that was hard. And I looked up because we do telehealth, and he was clearly crying as I was talking about it, but didn't say anything, just was sitting. But he's also a big dog lover too. I have had situations in which I've teared up, and then that becomes like where, usually I try to not make a big deal out of it. I'll just kind of sit there, like, my eyes get wet and I don't reach for a tissue or anything like that. I just kind of sit with them, because usually people aren't looking directly at you when they're crying. They're kind of looking around the room, or they have their head down, or they have their, head in their hand, they have their face in their hands, that sort of thing. So, but you just want to allow somebody to sit with their emotions, and you want to hold space with that, allow them, to know that they are someplace safe where they can express these emotions and just feel them, process them, get them out so that they can move forward.
Very good. All right. Any other thoughts on the workroom, the dance rehearsal, the tic-tac, chit-chat, anything else?
The blonde guy in the dancers was super hot.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He was the only one that I found kind of hot. And I don't like blondes, but he was the one that I was sort of like, hello, who are you?
Again,
he's basic. But
you know what's so funny is, I don't even know why this came up this week. I was talking to somebody, I don't remember who, and I was talking about, I'm pretty open to all types, believe it or not, but the one type I'm very not into is like your standard West Hollywood gay man.
Okay.
And I was saying, like, I actually find them repulsive, physically repulsive. And the poster boy for that, to me, is this Lycan Remkuel. Is that his name?
Oh my God.
The one that
is
dated
he still
Lance
around?
Bass. I don't know what his story is, right? And Lycan Remkuel, I don't know what his story is, but like the way he looks, that look, which is something you see all over West Hollywood, is not attractive to me at all. Like, I find it actually physically repulsive. I don't know. I just feel like, yeah, not my thing. Anyway, next, I don't think anyone who looks at that listens to this show. Next, the fun is interrupted when the room mail siren blares and T.S. Madison drops a bombshell on the girls. There is something called a double diamond, which will double the number of badges a queen receives. One queen will receive the double diamond, but the winner will be determined by a vote from the cast. The episode ends as each girl chooses the lipstick of the queen they think deserves the double diamond. Taylor the Latte Boy, any final thoughts on the episode, on this moment, on stray thoughts that you didn't get to, anything?
I think I made my feelings pretty clear on this episode. It was not a good episode at all. I'm looking forward to the talent show next week just because it will give us individual. There was nothing to really kind of talk about that was individual about the girls other than the TikTok interviews, but even all of them were kind of the same thing. They would talk about something, they would cry, Rue would sit stone face. They would tell Rue they loved her. She would say she loved them too. And then that was the end of it. And a lot of them made like a little funny joke as they got off the chair and like walked away.
I'm telling you, there have been episodes recently actually where I was like, look, it wasn't a fun episode to recap, but it was a fun episode to watch. This was neither fun to watch nor fun to recap.
No.
The fact that we made it over 30 minutes is a testimony to your and my professionalism. And because this was a slog to get through. Usually, even in episodes that feel long, I'll be like, okay, well, we have 20 minutes left or something like that, right? This one, I kept going like, oh my God, there's still this much to do.
Yep. I did the same thing. I paused it a couple of times to do something, and I looked up and I went, 32 minutes?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Not their best work.
No. But I feel like when we get to the end of the season, there's always like this. Any season, it gets like this. So anyway, that's going to do it for this week's episode of RuPaul's Drag Race Recap. Be sure to join us next week as we discuss, dissect, and deconstruct the grand finale of RuPaul's Drag Race All-Star Season 9. So for Taylor the Latte Boy and myself,
sashay away until next week.
Thank you for listening to Drag Race Recap. Have something to say? Leave us a voicemail at speakpipe.com/afterthoughtmedia. You can also email us at dragracerecap@afterthought.media. For more Drag Race and LGBTQ content, support us over at patreon.com/afterthoughtmedia. This podcast was produced by Sabrina Vadabancourt. Taylor the Latte Boy has another podcast. It's called Pod Is My Co-Pilot. You can find it wherever you get your podcasts. You can also follow Taylor on Instagram at PIMCTaylor. Follow Joe Batance on Instagram at Joe Batance. Special thanks to these expensive tier Patreon supporters: Anonymous, April Pacheco, Astute Girl, Brad Coley, Phil Skit Pony, Doofus Maximus, E. Smith, Efrain Barbosa, Emma, Flying Suki, Humble Pie, Isaac Martin, J. Thomas Plank, Kathy Zender, Lauren Eckert, Lucy Carrasco, Luke Stamen, Mary S., Matt Stewart, Mike Yeager, Nikki Baker, Mickey Pettit, Poppy Woods, We've Gotta Go Edita, Robert NYC, Sarah Yu, Runner Brandon, Tom Bombs, Traby Cosmos, and Troy Anderson. Drag Race Recap is an Afterthought Media podcast.